there's no such thing as fantasy trading. Don't
Mhm.
open up an account and think you're going to make $1 million without any sort of scratch. I remember when I was obsessed, in that phase, I was saying to myself, "Hey, I'm gonna be the first trader ever who's never taken a loss. It's gonna be a year, 2 years go by. I'm gonna get interviewed by CNBC. I'm gonna be sitting right there on the desk. They're gonna be talking. How do you never take a loss? They'll say on the bottom, Sean Dekmar has won the last 1,200 trades in a row. First trade I ever made, lost. First one. So,
Yeah.
just right there, I was like, wow, okay. Even with all my studying, it definitely took me a little time to get it. But I mean, trading, it's a game of wins and it's a game of losses. But it's a game of managing your losses so your wins are always outbeating them.
This is the How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast, brought to you by 10MinuteStockTrader.com, where we cover finance, stocks, options, entrepreneurship, education, and money. And here's your host, voted one of the top 100 people in finance, Christopher Uhl. Today's episode is produced in partnership with FinClub.ai. Trade with confidence and take the guesswork out of trading with FinClub's artificial intelligence platform. Now you can get access to the best AI trading platform on the market for as little as $19 per month. That's almost the price of Netflix. So head on over to FinClub.ai to start your 2-week free trial right now. Remember, that's at FinClub.ai. Hey, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified every time we give you more tools, tips, and tricks to help you trade faster and trade smarter every single week. Hey there, traders. Welcome back to another episode of the How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast. Today, we have a special guest online, Sean Dekmar. Sean, he trades at Tradecaster.net, and we're going to be talking all about Tradecaster today. And Sean, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the line today. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Always a big fan of your podcast as well. So, when I got the invitation, I definitely wanted to jump on and speak to you. And again, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. I look forward to it.
Oh man, I tell you, you're making me blush. It's just me doing my thing in my house. It's just I tell people it's like the podcast is a fly on the wall, and I get to have a conversation with some really cool people. And I mean, actually, this morning, you're the fourth person I talked to today, and the first one I talked to, I was like, having a podcast just opens so many doors to where I can
Yeah.
call and talk to people and just kind of shoot the shit for an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to do that otherwise. So it just makes things easier this way.
It's one of the best parts about doing what we do in general. I'll be in my chat room every single day and just being able to speak to other people who have the same interest as you. Because I mean, I'll go out and hang out with my friends. If I start talking about stocks, they'll start walking away from me after 10 to 15 minutes. So being able to have a community and be able to talk to people every single day about stocks and have that same exact passion, it's always good. And sometimes you get lost in how much you're talking about it because
Yes.
that's a very easy thing to do. And especially when you're talking to someone who has no idea what you're talking about, it's like they're looking at you like it's a foreign language.
Dude, I know. It's like that with my wife. Now, I use this as endearingly as I can, but every time I start talking about numbers, she glazes over like a donut. I mean,
Oh,
she
yeah.
is just like, totally, I don't care, not at all. Just do your thing. And
Yeah.
so I get
No,
it.
that's good. That's good. Every time that, my girlfriend comes around me, I start talking about stocks so she goes in the other direction.
Yes.
Very easy way to just get away for a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody today and I made a connection. So I'm not a sports guy, but I am a stocks guy. And I was trying to talk to my brother-in-law and he wants to learn to trade and he's a
Mhm.
big sports fan. And I was like, oh, you know what? So he cares and places emphasis on like sports scores and teams
Mhm.
and players and things like that. And I translate that into like options and
Yeah.
stocks and different companies and earnings and things like that. And I was like, wow, okay, we really are the same. We just have
Yeah.
different things we focus on.
Yeah, that's like a big part of my, trading and teaching. Everything I do, I try to break it down to simplify it into different analogies. And a lot of times I compare stock trading to sports because there's so many different similarities and
Mhm.
especially these little analogies that can help you understand the market. Because when you're first learning how to trade, obviously things can get very difficult. So if you can kind of break it down and make it more simplified so someone can relate to something, it becomes 10 times easier. So sports is one of those
Yeah.
perfect examples where you can always grab something from the stock market and be like, hey, this would be this type of thing in a sport. So it really just makes everything a lot easier as well.
For sure. So Sean, give us a little background about who you are, where you came from, how did Tradecaster and everything that you do come about?
Yeah, so currently I'm 27 right now. I started trading when I was 19 to 20. Started getting involved with it when I was a sophomore in college. And really, I've told the story a few times, but it really just comes down to I wanted more. I wanted to be able to do something I was proud of. Going in high school, I was never the kid that was graduating at the very top of my class. I was just in the middle of my pack. Then, going off to college from there didn't really know what to do. Didn't know what field I wanted to go into, because when you think about it, when you're 17 and 18 years old and someone says, "What do you want to do the rest of your life?" So many people are changing their mind constantly. I don't think there's anyone that goes in there and 100% is happy and never thinks twice about it.
Right.
So with my major that I was currently in, I wasn't absolutely in love with it. And I'm saying to myself, I'm going to school, I'm paying all this big money, I'm getting a degree, and this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 30, 40 years until I retire. I want to do something more with myself. I want to be proud every single day I wake up. And now, money's not the most important thing in the world, and I'll be the first one to say that. But does it help? Absolutely. Is it going to allow you to do the things that you want to do? Absolutely. So, I definitely wanted to do something that I enjoyed, I had a passion for, and on top of that, I would be able to make some big money. So when I was actually a sophomore in college, I went to the library and just Googled. It's super basic. I Googled how to get rich, and 3 different things popped up. Either A, start a business, B, get involved with real estate, or C, get involved with the stock market. So I was going through each one of these and trying to learn more about them, and the stock market is just one that really clicked with me. Right when I started studying the stock market, I really just got obsessed with it. And when I mean obsessed, I was obsessed with the stock market. There were times that I probably weren't going to my college courses, but that was only because I was honestly giving myself my own course in the library. I tell my parents that a lot. I was like, "Oh, hey, mom, dad," there were times I weren't going to class, but it's not like I wasn't going to class and playing Call of Duty or Fortnite or any of that stuff. I was going to the library and trying to give myself my own education on how to trade stocks, and that's just looking through Google, Investopedia, YouTube, just trying to get as much information as I can. One of the best things I say to myself is I was a broke college kid, because when I first started stock trading, I fell in love with it, and if I had the money, I would have invested right away. And that's one of the biggest problems people do, is they find money, find the passion, which I love, but they invest right away before they're truly ready. And if I, again, traded right away, I would have lost everything, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So since I was a college kid, since I was working that $8 an hour job, it took me 6, 7, 8 months to be able to even remotely get an account saved up, while of course trying to live my life. So I was paper trading, studying, and this allowed me to make mistakes on paper trade, lose money paper trade, figure out what worked, what didn't work. And then finally, after about 10 to 11 months, I was able to move to a real account, and that's when my trading career started. So I started when I was a junior, actually trading real money, turned to get my $2,300 account into around 18,000 my first year. So again, it was like 16,000 bucks. It wasn't anything out of this world, but as a college kid, I felt like a king. You go out to your $1 draft beer night, you're buying everything for the whole entire school. You're the coolest kid around. But by senior year, everything keeps on improving. Right after college, switched over to a full-time trader, and now being 7 years after, just been doing it every day since. So love what I do every single day, waking up and being able to work with my community, live stream my trading, and just be able to help out. It's absolutely awesome. So every single day I still have that same fire, same drive, same passion that I started with when I was a sophomore in school, and I don't think I'm ever going to lose it. That's the beautiful thing about the stock market, is every single day is different. So I couldn't imagine working, of course, underneath someone, or a 9 to 5, or just kind of doing paperwork all day. It's just not for me. And one of the biggest things I always say is, at some point, you're going to have to make a change. If you want to actually be someone, if you want to make money, if you want to live a life out of normal expectations, you can't live a normal life. You have to do something different. And that's what I really noticed back when I was a sophomore in school. I was going to one class, then I went to another class, then I went to another class, and all I did with hundreds of kids is just go to the same class over and over and over again. I thought to myself, when am I going to do something different? Because I always give the analogy, you look down the street, you look down in your neighborhood, everyone's probably driving the same exact type of car, maybe a Toyota, maybe a Camry, maybe a Honda, all probably within that, $20,000 to $50,000 range, the majority of people for cars. How is someone affording, these foreign cars? How is someone, again, affording these $1 million homes? How do people have just like these ginormous boats and stuff? At some point in their life, they had to do something different. At some point in their life, they had to go off the beaten path. And then that's where I was saying to myself as a sophomore, hey, if I just follow the steps that everyone does, I'm going to be absolutely the same as everyone else. And the thing is, so many people are nervous to get away from normal. And it's like, what's nervous to get away from normal? If I tried And for the worst case scenario, I failed. I lost, let's say, my $2,300. I'm in the same exact position that everyone else is in. There's no harm. There's no risk to actually just try to be something better. Sure, do you have to sacrifice some nights of going out with your friends? Absolutely. Are you going to, again, be watching some videos in the video library or watching YouTube instead of, hanging out with your buddies or anything along those lines? Yeah, but you're going to make sacrifices if you guys want to be better. So it really comes down to that. So I always thought, if you want to live, a great life, if you want to, of course, be able to have these amazing things, you got to be able to break away from the pack. And, so many people are kind of nervous because what people are going to think about you. And that's kind of like one of the big things I always see about, on social media. Whenever someone's trying to do something, let's say someone starts a business or someone starts stock trading or someone, again, uploads a video of them singing, it's like people always are going to have comments about you. And I couldn't tell, even my own friends, commenting kind of like behind my back a little bit, like, yeah, okay, Sean's going to be a stock trader. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. So the thing is, you just ignore that type of stuff or use that as fuel. It's like, okay, hey, you want to talk about it like that? Just see where I'm at now. Same exact people who try to put me down, 6-7 years later, sliding in my DMs asking me how to trade. So I mean, it all comes around. You just got to be willing to kind of work through that little bit. But people, again, scared to take chances. What's there to lose? You're only going to be jumping back just to everyone else worst case scenario if you ever failed. So I always say, go after it, try to get it, try to make it happen. But it really comes down to you and your mindset to first, really make that first step.
That was really great. In fact, we should cut that and make that a like a motivational video right there. Just all of that. How long did you go? Like 8 minutes straight? That was really good though. You covered a lot. Listen, I know exactly where you're coming from. There was a point where when I decided that I was going to start trading, I was like obsessed. And like I got to the point where like I was going to work and I was coming home and then I was studying and then I was going to bed and then I was dreaming about the options, right? Dreaming about trading, and it was just repeat. And unfortunately, unlike your circumstance, I actually blew up my account twice.
Okay.
But I think back on that, and I'm actually super grateful that I did when I did, because let's say
a piece of the story.
Yeah, because I mean, I couldn't imagine doing it now. I wouldn't let it happen now, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like if I had lost, let's call it $5,000, then that's a lot easier to handle than a multiple of that now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hearing stories like that where you didn't have a chance to blow up, I'm almost like, Sean, I'm happy for you, but I'm nervous for you. Because I don't know if you felt that pain. I'm sure you've had losing trades.
No, I've had pain in my trading. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I always say, again, there's no such thing as fantasy trading. Don't open up an account and think you're going to make $1 million without any sort of scratch. I remember when I was obsessed, in that phase, I was saying to myself, hey, I'm gonna be the first trader ever who's never taken a loss. It's gonna be a year, 2 years go by. I'm gonna get interviewed by CNBC. I'm gonna be sitting right there on the desk. They're gonna be talking, how do you never take a loss? They'll say on the bottom, Sean Dekmar has won the last 1,200 trades in a row. First trade I ever made, lost. First one. So, just right there, I was like, wow, okay. Even with all my studying, it definitely took me a little time to get it. But I mean, trading, it's a game of wins and it's a game of losses. But it's a game of managing your losses so your wins are always outbeating them. If you want to be a successful trader, it's okay to have losses, but it's about cutting those losses quick enough so that every single win is going to be able to make back any sort of loss. And that's one of the strategies I always try to follow, 2-to-1 ratio. It means if I, again, take 2 losses and 1 win, I'll be back to even. So let's say I have an off week. Let's say I have an off month. Every single time I lose, 1 win will put me back into the green. And all we do there is just cut our losses quickly, and we make sure that every single win is going to be double. So there's times, of course, I'm going to take losses. There's times, of course, that every single trader goes on a little bit of a losing streak. But if you just keep your emotions in check, if you don't get greedy, if you set stop losses, you're going to be able to bounce back right away, which is absolutely great. But thankfully, in 2020 so far, my win percentage is 82%. So right now, 8 out of 10 trades I'm able to come out on top of. But, I always got to watch those 1 to 2 because I'm human just like everyone else, and greed does take over sometimes, and my emotions do take over sometimes. And, it's always great to just kind of get out of those plays, and you never want to be the person holding the bag and saying to yourself, oh, this will come back up. This will come back up. Come on, please come back on up. You don't want to be that guy. So, but we've all been there.
So what kind of trading do you do? So I'm primarily options. mostly selling spreads. That's kind of my bread and butter. And it's just so simple, right? Like if we got a back tested moving average and it's moving up, let's call it the 20-day moving average,
Yeah.
and you've seen in TrendSpider that that provides the best return overall. Historical past performance is not indicative of future results, as they say.
Yeah.
But and then just sell put spreads as that's going up. It just like it's a really simple way to trade, and it just really works for me because I don't want to be like I run two companies, and so it's
Yeah.
like I don't want to be stuck trading all day. I have
Yeah,
other
no. I
things
mean,
to
I don't
do.
think, yeah, I don't think anyone out wants to sit in front of their computer all day, and that's one of the beautiful things about trading.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in and out within a couple minutes, sometimes
Hmm.
it's an hour, sometimes it could be half a day, but it's not like you're sitting there for 9 hours a day just staring at your computer screen, and unless you really want to, of course. But the majority of the trades that I get involved with are going to be probably $25 and below.
Okay.
That is the majority of my trades, and especially when I first started. If you only have $2,000, $3,000 in your account, a lot of times what I suggest to be able to really grow that, I'm going to need to be able to buy enough shares to be able to make a profit. So I don't really do too much option trading. I'm always looking to be able to buy microcap plays, which are again, $10 or below. As your account gets bigger, you can always go a little higher, $25 and below. But even now, when I trade with my larger account, and I have two different trading accounts, I'm going to have one larger account and I have one smaller account. The smaller account I like to do, I live stream and I use this one to be able to teach traders my strategy on how to grow out of that small account. And then my bigger account, I like to trade a lot of blue chips and just day trade. Tesla's obviously been such a hot play in 2020. You can really just hop in and out of Tesla and be able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes within minutes, just because how hot that play is throughout every single day. So that's always an awesome one. But I always try to trade with two different accounts, and obviously, every single day is a learning experience for me. I always say education has no ceiling. I've been trading for 7 years, and I know a lot about the stock market. I know a lot about day trading. I know a lot about microcaps, and I know a lot about blue chips. But the thing is, every single time I log on, every single time I trade, I'm subconsciously picking up new things just by staring at graphs, just by staring at the level 2, just by watching price movement. You don't realize how much you're really retaining. You don't realize that day after day after day you do these things, you wake up and you start noticing things that you think are normal, and people are like, well, how do you realize this? And you're just like, I just do. It's kind of like a little superpower. You always got to kind of get to that wall where so many people are saying, hey, I don't really know what any of this stuff means. And I just say, keep plugging away at it. Keep putting yourself in those positions. Keep working as hard as you can. And then finally you wake up one day and you're like, hey, this all makes sense. And that was probably the hardest part of my, when I first started trading, is just trying to learn and just being so confused, and trying to learn and being so confused. And finally, you keep doing it day after day. After being overwhelmed so much, you say to yourself, wow, okay, I'm starting to pick things up. And that's one of the things that I want all new traders to know when they first start trading is you are going to be overwhelmed. Looking at support, resistance, candlesticks, level 2s, volume indicators, VWAP, RSI, all this stuff. You're saying to yourself, how am I supposed to pick all this stuff up? It's so much information. And I always say when you're overwhelmed, that's absolutely okay, because it means you're working. It's like the same exact thing. You go to the gym. You go to the gym, you start working out, doing some cardio, start benching, whatever, your muscles are sore the next day. Why? Because you're putting them through stress to only get bigger. Same exact thing when learning the stock market. You might be overwhelmed, stressed, confused. It's because you're putting yourself in position to actually learn how to do it. So again, never. I always say, never get really hard on yourself if you're just trying to learn, the markets. It's not easy, but once you again get the hang of it, things, as you say, go buttery smooth after a while.
Yeah, and I remember actually I was sitting in this chair right here one day, and I just came off a great winning streak. And it was after I had made many adjustments in the way I traded. And I remember sitting here thinking, why did I make it so hard?
Yeah.
It's not like it's simple, but once you understand how the things work, like you were just talking about, then it just clicks.
Yeah.
And then there's not a fear, right? I remember specifically a fear of losing or a fear of placing a trade in case it might lose. And like I don't have that now, because I know what I'm going to do. And if X happens, I'm going to do Y. And if Z happens, I'm going to do A.
Yeah.
And, honestly, if I could figure out a way to program into a computer the way that I trade and just let it go, I would totally do that, because I know what works, and basically you're just trend following. at the end of the day, the way we make money when we buy stocks is getting into a trend. If that trend is at the bottom of a reversal, or if that trend is it's turned and you're waiting for it to have some sort of confirmation, you're just following a trend at the end of the day.
That's I say that so much. Yes, when you first start off, you want to try to learn as much as you can, but then after you kind of learn as much as you can break it down so simple. Like as you say, trend line. If I was going to my nephew who's 4 years old and I showed him a picture of a stock that went up, came on down, bounced off the line, came up, came on down, bounced the line, came on up, I say, what would come up next? He'd say, bounce off this line. Absolutely. But so many people, again, overthink it, at that point where they say, oh, no, we got to look at, the MACD crossing over this moving average at the volume on this day. And it's like, just, pump the brakes a little bit. Everything's absolutely okay. So I understand, sometimes we overcomplicate it because we say it can't be this easy. Right. But, that's a huge part of trading. And, I always say, a lot of new traders are always hurting themselves because usually what happens in the stock market a lot of times, you kind of have to think about it and take a step back where if you see a ginormous spike, we see a huge spike go on up, everyone wants to jump into that spike. But a lot of times if you see the spike, it's usually too late to get in on that play. So that's one of the big things I always tell traders is once you see a ginormous spike, I know it looks appealing. It's like, okay, hey, I want to go play that one. Look how hard that one's spiking on up. But usually you'll hear traders say, why is it everything I buy end up losing? Why is it every time I buy a play, it always goes down? Why are people after me? Is it like, do people know that I'm buying these stocks? Because it seems like it always falls. But the biggest, new trader mistake is they wait for the big time spike. They visually see the spike. They visually see the breakout. They see how big it's gone already. And they say, okay, now I feel comfortable buying. But since it's gone so big, guess what's going to happen? It's going to have a sell-off soon, and then you miss out on the bounce, and you're upset with yourself. You see it spike again, then you buy on the top once again. You really have to wait for those hard drops, wait for the support line, get on the trend line, bounce it back on up, then you ride. But it's just, again, a lot of people don't know these things, and that's why you just need a little bit of a mentor, or you need someone or some course or anything along these lines to just learn the right way. Unfortunately, when I first started, again, I didn't have any of this stuff, so I was just all trial and error. As I said, it's one of the best things for me being a broke college kid. So when I was just paper trading, how did I learn to trade? It was more along the lines of, hey, this doesn't work. Hey, I just lost $200. Hey, I lost 400. Hey, I lost 800. Hey, this worked. Let me try to expand off this. Why it took me so long to actually be profitable in my trading is because I think I found every single way how not to be profitable in my trading.
I think we all hit that. Yeah. Dude, I've been there. Like I vividly tried. There were so many different indicators and things that I tried stacking, right? And then I was like, I'm going to call tops, I'm going to call bottoms, which is like the worst thing you could try to do, let me tell you. And then, I did similar to what you were saying. I took several steps back. I blew up my account twice, like I said. And started reading and learning, and there's lots of good resources, and then there's also lots of not great resources. Yeah, so you got to kind of figure out what actually works for you, right? I mean, your style of trading may not fit my personality. That's another 100%. Way. Yeah. But, there's lots of great books out there, and some of them that I really love were New Trader, Rich Trader by Steve Burns. Steve's such an incredible guy. And then How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market by Nicholas Darvish. Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. And I was just talking to somebody earlier today, even these books that are like 100 years old, there's still a lot that can be applied in today's market. And 100%. You wouldn't believe it until you read it or listened to it, and just hearing like, specifically How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market. Nicholas Darvish would talk about Darvish boxes is what he called them. And essentially, it's like if the stock price is moving in this range, he's not interested. But once it broke out of that, his own box that he created, once it broke out of that, then he was interested. And it's just like, dude's identifying trends and riding the trends as long as they'll go. Yeah. And it's just it's simple things like that we, as we're learning, just really take for granted. And I even told Steve this one time. I was like, the longer I trade, the simpler my strategy gets. I'm tired of adding all these different indicators and stuff.
all you have to do a lot of times, find higher lows, find lower lows, find big spikes, and you get trading is just a game of obviously learning everything about as much as you can, and then on top of that, simplifying it all down.
So, and being okay with losers. Like,
That's a huge part of it.
you've got
I
to be
can
okay
tell you
with
how many
losing.
times I talk to people and they say, "Hey, I don't think this is for me." I say, "What happened?" They say, "Oh, I lost $32 today." I say, "$32? That's it?" And they say, "Yeah, I don't know if I can be a stock trader." I say,
Tough
you
day.
can, but you can't be upset about a $32 loss. This is a game of give and take. You are going to have some huge wins, but those losses are going to be there. It's basically, as we said before, comparing it to sports. You can think of all these amazing athletes, and you could think of Steph Curry, one of the best shooters in the NBA. He misses shots. There's two ways he can react, of course. He can mope around and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to sit on the bench. Someone go get me some water right here. Or I'll give the other player some water, and I'm going to quit basketball." Or you say, "Hey, you know what? I missed a shot. Give me the ball," and he goes ahead and keeps shooting and nails 8 more threes on the day. So, I mean, you can take a loss two different ways. Get angry and slam your computer, or you can sit there, learn from it, learn what you did wrong, and then go ahead and become a better trader from it. So, just a little analogy just from sports right there. It's just two different ways that you can always handle every single thing you do in a negative way and a positive way. Even though a loss is not something we want to experience, it is actually your biggest learning lesson, because wins, everyone wants to show off. Wins, everyone wants to be able to say, "Hey, look what I did, look what I can do." Losses, again, people want to hide and never kind of look at them ever again. But that's where you need your improvement. If you
Oh
lost,
yeah.
is the reason behind it.
Dude, I'm the opposite of a fake guru. You will
Uh,
not on anything ever find me talking about my wins. Ever.
oh yeah, yeah,
Ever. That's my money, and you don't even
yeah,
know about it. I'm just saying.
yeah.
But I will
That's a,
gladly talk about my losses all day, every day, right? Because
yeah,
I feel like that is where people learn more from.
that is true.
And like, um, for example, so this last week I was building a course, and inside the course I was doing several live trade examples, and there was one trade where we had a winner, we rolled it forward, then the roll forward was a loser, and I was like, this is a great trade. Like overall, it was a great trade because it was profitable overall. I don't care that I lost on the second half because if you sum the entire thing together, it's still a winner. So there
Yeah,
is no disappointment in that,
yeah,
and that's where I know personally I really struggled with was the accepting of losses
hmm,
because it's like I have to win every trade, kind of like you were wanting to be that guy, right? But
yeah.
you gotta let that ego part go
Can't
because it
have
will
ego in stock
ruin you.
trading.
It'll
Yeah.
totally ruin you, right? You hold the one trade that you think, well, first off, you probably got in way too big if you're that concerned about each
Hmm.
individual trade. But let's say you put 75% of your account in one trade and then it's going against you. You can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
You can't think properly. You're at church, you're kneeling at
Right.
the pew, saying, please God, let this trade work. Because
Uh,
you've done wrong, because I've had those experiences, Sean. That's why I'm okay with sharing,
no,
what
I get
my
you.
losers are. Because, dude, I've been there. I lost 5 figures figuring out how to trade before I actually learned to trade.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, it's figuring out the strategy is one side, and then figuring out yourself, that's the other side, which can take people a long time because they don't want to be wrong first off, and they don't want
Yeah,
to
no
lose
one, no one
money.
likes being wrong, and it's always
Right.
tough to tell people, "Hey, you might want to stop doing this,"
Yeah.
especially if they're making the same bad habit over and over again. But the thing is, the stock market usually disciplines people for them. If
Yeah.
someone's
Oh
making the same
yeah.
mistakes over and over again, it's stock market's going to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to learn from those lessons that it's giving you because you don't want to be wrong, you don't want to lose money, and then you don't want to be wrong a second time because every trader goes through this. It's like as soon as I sell, I know this is going to go back up,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We all go through that.
There's
And
been so many times I've shorted plays, and I'll be taking a loss, and it's climbing, climbing, climbing. I know, right? Hey, right when I cover this, it's gonna start fading right back on down, and it does that, and that's the most frustrating
it
part.
is.
And
Yeah.
it's not easy. So, I mean, what I do, of course, on TradeCaster, I'm always live streaming, and every single trade, you can see my brokerage, you can see all my scanners, you see every trade I take. So, win or lose, people are going to be seeing all my good habits and all my bad habits. And when I have a win, hey, it's great. We can celebrate about it, have some fun. But when I have a loss, you see it right there as well. So, it's kind of the same exact position that you're in. I can never hide anything, and I would rather people be able to see me lose, because why? I would rather have them be like, "Hey, Deck did this because of this reason, and that's why he lost. So let me make sure that I can't do it." So that's the number one thing to me, is just I just want to be transparent so that everyone can see what I do right and do wrong, so it can help them in their stock trading careers.
Without a doubt, and it's so important, and that's where I feel that the people who are out there making content like you and I are really have the responsibility of that, right? And we
Yeah.
can't be those guys that only show the wins, right? I can't
Mm.
stand when there's really good YouTube channels on it now that call people out like crazy, and I'm so glad because there's so many people that will hop on social media and they'll take a screenshot and say, "I made $16,000 today. I made $9,000 today."
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. And they never talk about their losses. It's
No,
it's
it's crazy.
always winners, man.
It's
Always
crazy.
winners. Who would
I've
have
never seen
thought,
so many wins in my life. I
dude?
mean, I'm usually the type of person that I try to always, I don't ever like talking, badly about, any other person. And, I would love to just be like, hey, yada, yada, yada. But, people usually figure out things for themselves after a while and be like, hey, that doesn't really make too much sense.
Yeah, exactly. Or the rented Ferraris and rented Lamborghinis that people stand out in front of, and
No, I got that. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
the whole. I was just gonna say the whole lifestyle influencer of a stock trader can really screw some people up mentally, in my
no,
opinion.
hey, you're talking to the guy.
Yeah.
I've been there, man. That was like one of my dreams when I first started trading. Is I always wanted like that next level car. I always wanted to be able to buy like my dream car, and I did. I was able to afford the car that I wanted to get. So I went through that period. I went through that phase, and after a while, I sold my car, and I always think, when you're trying to get money or you're trying to become wealthy, and you're trying to become rich, and you want to be able to get that big house and that car or that boat, when you finally get to that level, the things is you don't really want to spend your hard-earned money maybe on a six-figure car or some things that you don't really need. And maybe it's just me getting more to the point that, I'm maturing a little bit than when I was first 20 when I first started. But, I don't really want to drop, six figures on a car just to post pictures in front of it anymore. So, I don't know. That's just where I'm at with my trading, I guess.
No, that's good, man. Just a little FYI. I drive a Mini Cooper and I love it. My Mini
Oh
Cooper, it's
yeah,
got a little
no,
turbo on it. It's so much fun. I love that thing.
no,
And
I
it's
gotcha.
not about
Yeah,
not
I went from McLaren with my dream car to now I drive a pickup truck. But I love my truck.
dude, it's not about being flashy, right? You can't trade what's in your car. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
true.
yeah, that's in my opinion, that's I love cars. I think they're great, but I don't think that they are the best use of resources unless you're using them for advertising, like a Fit
I
Guru would,
gotcha.
right?
No, I understand
Yeah.
that. The thing is, I would just rather invest back into myself, and if that is
Oh,
business, if that is real estate, because the thing is, we're both so young. It's just, we have so much to be able to grow. It's like, do I maybe want to go back to that dream car? Absolutely, maybe one day. Do I want to, maybe be able to get that big house with, that boat one day? Absolutely. But the thing is, I want to be able to make sure that I'm financially stable. I don't want to be the person that, has some money right now. And you know what? I know that money could easily go away if I'm not smart. It's more about, hey, if you got a passion and you want to be able to get that dream car, go for it. And I love that you have that passion. But at the same time, don't, hit, let's say, $200,000 in your account and just blow your money and now you're broke.
yeah.
So I would love to be able to get some nice things again. But the thing is, I don't want to drop all my money on cars and boats and houses right now when I don't want to be the next kind of story of, oh, this guy had money and was just ridiculous with it. So it's more about me right now. I want to save. I want to be able to buy smart assets that are only going to appreciate in value and not depreciate.
That's right. And Sean, I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like you are maturing. I'm glad to see
Thank
that,
you. I
that
mean,
it's
it's
working.
nice. I'm
Time
glad
is
we're
on
having
your
this interview when
side.
I'm 27 and not 19. So it's good.
Yeah.
I've written a short guide on how you can use the Triple Stock Profit system. It's the secret weapon every investor needs right now to change your financial future, and you can get it for free by visiting triplestockprofits.com or in the links below. Also, if you want to join a community of traders just like you can get free access to the elite membership that has even more resources to help you trade faster and trade smarter.
No, absolutely, man. Well, Sean, I'll tell you what, this has been great. You've covered a lot. I know that the audience out there certainly had to have gotten something useful out of this, especially with the very inspiring and motivational things that you were talking about earlier. So I really appreciate that, Sean. Nice work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was I usually tell a lot of people that, and it's absolutely true. Just if you want to become a stock trader, you're the only person that's going to make it happen. Could you again, buy a course? Absolutely. Could you again sign up to a chat? Absolutely. But if you just think that someone's going to hand you the keys to success, It doesn't work like that. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're going to have to put in the work. You can't just follow someone else and then expect to be successful at it. You got to be able to put in the work yourself and say, hey, I'm going to dedicate myself to this. Just because you go ahead and you sign up for some personal training classes doesn't mean you're going to start losing weight. You still got to put in the work for it.
That's right. Nobody's going to do the push-ups for you.
No.
So listen, Sean, I really appreciate the chat today. And let's tell people to go check you out over at tradecaster.com, correct?
Tradecaster.com, sign up, free 7-day pass. I live stream every single day. We have a community of over 1,000 traders on the free 7-day pass. You'll be able to join our chat room, see me live trade, check out the free video library as well. Right now, I'm also doing a small account challenge where I have a $4,000 account. The goal is to turn it into $50,000. So putting myself back into a lot of normal trader shoes and saying, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. So I'm going to talk you through every single play, every single alert, teach you why I'm doing this. And we also are doing our boot camp right now during our small account challenge, where every single day we do an hour-long lesson going over my strategy and different fundamentals for you to be able to learn and become a better stock trader. So it's a perfect time to sign up. Check us out, and I look forward to working with every single person that's inspired and ready to work.
Wow, Sean, great pitch. That was awesome, I gotta say. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was great to have some of your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you guys for tuning into today's How to Trade Stocks Options podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and enable notifications. That way you never miss any of the tools, tips, and tricks that we upload every single week to help you trade faster and trade smarter. And I'll see you on the next episode.